Hi everybody, welcome back to 100% Mag. So I'm joined once again by Luca, the Arsenal fan from This Is Luca's Life. How are you? Welcome to the channel.
Hello, welcome back again, and we're back here for another preview again. And obviously, last week, we found out the result that Arsenal obviously beat Newcastle 2-0 in the FA Cup. And obviously, Newcastle fans are not happy with that performance because they felt like they got robbed in that game. And we're going to be talking about this game. And as you know, obviously, find my YouTube channel. This is Lucas Life. I just come off my live stream covering the Palace review of our 0-0 draw against Palace. And go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do football vlogs. I do live streams. I do day out vlogs, walking vlogs. And we're on the road to 600 subscribers by the end of March.
So, like Luca says, go subscribe to his channel. It would be absolutely fantastic if you could. Also, subscribe to this channel as well, as I'm on the road to the 500 subscribers. Currently at 424, so if we can get that up to 500 by March, then that would be absolutely amazing. So, talking about the game, first off, we'll go with the game in the FA Cup. What was your thoughts on that game, Luca, mate?
Well, yeah, let's go back to obviously from the FA Cup game. I thought you lot played really well, and I was really scared going to this game. And I remember last week, I went for a 3-1 Arsenal. I knew we were going to win this game, but I wasn't expecting you lot to put on a decent performance. And I think Andy Carroll put a really good masterclass against you lot, and I was really scared going into that game. We looked really poor and we lacked of creativity. And then what happened was Carroll should have won it at the end, and Leno played a good part into that. Leno made a few good saves and it went into extra time. I watched the game. I was really quite scared. I thought you would have nicked it at the end and gone through to the next round of the FA Cup. But we got you in extra time, and I thought we dominated the game in the second half, and we got that goal. Smith Rowe changed the game. Kieran Tierney was obviously he missed yesterday's game, but Tierney, Smith Rowe linked up very well, and Lacazette, Smith Rowe came on and changed the game and got the goal, and we got the win, and we all kind of knew that game was over. But the red card situation, I know obviously you want to touch on the red card situation. I didn't think it wasn't a red card in my opinion, because obviously Smith Rowe obviously went on the floor. Can't really remember the incident, but obviously I don't think it wasn't a red card. But besides that, we got the goal, and then Aubameyang linked up with Tierney, and we kind of killed it off there. But I do think Newcastle deserved to win the game, in my opinion. I do hold it up as an Arsenal fan. I do think Newcastle deserved to win it. I do think you should have scraped it a 1-0 win. But typical Steve Bruce fucks the tactics up. So
Exactly, yeah. Like you were saying about the red card situation, touching on that, of course. My opinion, obviously not a lot of people will think the same, but in my opinion, I thought it was a red card, to be honest. The way he went in, it was very bad. Studs showing, you've seen that a lot this season. That's been a red card in any game. It's a red card when the studs is up. It's a very vicious tackle. And another reason why I thought was a red card as well is because obviously Sean Longstaff was the one that got the foul done against him. He screamed out loud, and I know Sean Longstaff, he's not that kind of lad. He wouldn't scream out loud if he didn't get touched. He's not a cheating player. So, in my opinion, I thought it was a red card. Andy Carroll, for me, was absolutely fantastic in that game. It was very unlucky that he didn't come away with a goal in it as well. He had a couple of outstanding chances, especially the one where it just went sliding to the side of the goal. It was a very good chance for him, and I'm surprised he didn't get it in, to be honest. And of course, Elliot Anderson, another player that I want to touch on in that game, absolutely sensational. Come on, made his debut in the FA Cup against Arsenal as well, and that's something that's absolutely massive for a young lad like that. Coming in, making his first competitive game, and he didn't put a foot wrong in the game. That just shows you how good of a player he is, and I'm surprised that he didn't get a game in the game against Sheffield United as well, which we will touch on that as well now. The game against Sheffield United, I thought Steve Bruce got it all wrong. was absolutely beyond a joke. The tactics going into that game. He had about 9 guys back defending against a team, that hasn't won a game all season in the Premier League. And they come against Newcastle. Yes, fair enough, they had home field advantage, being that it was Bramall Lane, but they're going into that game without a win. And Steve Bruce is literally going into the game knowing Sheffield United's going into it without a win. And he's sitting 9 men behind the ball. He literally had Callum Wilson up top on his own with nobody feeding the ball to him. And then in the press interview after the match, he comes out and he says, we had players playing in false 10. What's false 10? What is a false 10? I know there's a false 9, but what's a false 10? Do you know what a false 10 is, Luca?
I don't really know what a false 10 is, but what I will say is I just think Steve Bruce just makes weird decisions, and I just feel that game what I watched like towards the end of the second half. You were all over the place in that game against Sheffield United. Like you had Andy Carroll on the bench, and I'm like, I don't clearly understand why you had Andy Carroll. You had Joe Linton on the bench as well. People were saying that Joe Linton isn't good, but I do think you've actually could have brought him on a little bit early. You had Andy Carroll on the bench. You had Matthew Longstaff on the bench. You had Matt Ritchie. You've had pretty much some good players on the bench. And what was Ryan Fraser doing? Ryan Fraser, that stupid red card, what you did. He hasn't really got up to the standards since signing for Newcastle from Bournemouth on a free transfer. He hasn't really done anything, and something Steve Bruce has to go, in my opinion, for you lot, and he really needs to go. And Mike Ashley's not going to sack him. And the more this continues on, Newcastle can afford to lose against Arsenal on Monday, and then they can lose their next game, whoever they got after that. But Newcastle needs exactly what Mike said in the chat. Bruce has got to go, and I don't really understand this false 10, like playing all these weird formations. Like Andy Carroll was on good form, and he could have easily nicked the win against Arsenal. And then we obviously beat you in extra time. Andy Carroll obviously didn't start, and I just don't understand why does Steve Bruce keep doing these touch and goes. I know he wasn't going to get sacked, and I said it in our preview last week that he'll get a free jail card.
Yeah, exactly.
But Steve Bruce overall, he needs to go. He needs to go. We need someone who's going to come in, like someone like Eddie Howe, who's going to obviously knows the Premier League very, very well. He can get this team going, and the players are not playing for the manager. And it's something where I think Newcastle, as a massive, massive club, where you are in the league, you need to be. You've got pretty much some good players. You have not got bad, a half decent squad. Like Ryan Fraser, I was a massive fan of him a couple of years ago. Callum Wilson's a good signing. You haven't got bad, decent players, but for a club like Newcastle, you expect them to do better, and you need a better manager. Like I look at it, Eddie Howe. You bring someone like that, people are going to work under Eddie Howe because he knows he might not won anything in the Premier League, but still he's kept Bournemouth up over these years and got relegated once.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I agree with. I agree with that in the fact that Eddie Howe literally got Bournemouth from League One all the way to the Premier League. And last season was the only time that he really made any sort of mess up. And it wasn't even his fault, because they were absolutely injury-stricken last season, Bournemouth. And then they got cheated by a VAR decision as well. So
they did.
For me, Eddie Howe is an absolutely amazing guy to bring in. He'd steady the ship. He'd keep up in the Premier League. And that's all we're looking at the moment because we've got that takeover around the corner, So we've just got to steady the ship. We've just got to stay in the Premier League for this moment in time. And then hopefully that takeover goes in with favour and we'll get to move on forward away from Mike Ashley being the owner, away from idiotic stupidity like Steve Bruce and negative tactics. And, it's so depressing watching Newcastle United play. It's like Mike said, Eddie Howe would suit Newcastle with Ryan Fraser, Callum Wilson, and they were great with Eddie Howe. I fully agree with what Mike said there. Ryan Fraser, Callum Wilson's at the club. You've got Matthew Ritchie at the club. You've got all them players that's come from Bournemouth in. So Eddie Howe would be the perfect fit in my eyes going into this, what you call them the rest of the season. We have to get rid of Steve Bruce before we end up with another Steve McLaren situation like we did when Rafa had to come in and steady the ship. And he came in too late, unfortunately, Rafa, and we ended up going down. And I don't want to see another situation like that happening at Newcastle because of stupidity over keeping somebody that you just know that isn't good enough to be in Newcastle. Anyway, moving on from that game against Sheffield United, your game, of course, against Crystal Palace. How did your game go against Crystal Palace?
Well, last night against Crystal Palace, obviously the game was goalless. We drew 0-0. I thought first half overall, we started on top. We dominated a little bit of possession. It was quite an end-to-end game. Two teams were really going for it. Crystal Palace kind of were the better team overall, but obviously we had chances. I thought Ceballos had a good start into the first half, tried to pull some strings and some good passes. I thought David Luiz had a good game, another good game. I thought he had a good game against Newcastle as well. Rob Holding, since he signed that contract, big week for Rob Holding, gave him a little bit of confidence. I thought he had a good game as well. I just feel that it was such a frustrating game, and we haven't beaten Crystal Palace in the last 5 games. And it's not good enough at the end of the day. And literally, we have to pull results if we want to climb up the table. Last night was an opportunity to obviously be 7 points behind second. We would have been 4 points off potentially title contenders Tottenham, as they like to say. We would have been level on points with 8th place Aston Villa, and we've blown it. And Crystal Palace always know how to play against us. And for me, it was just a poor thing. Like, Tierney got injured. I thought we lacked that left-hand side. Maitland-Niles was pretty much rushed to come into that left-hand side. He's not a left-back. He's not even really a midfielder. But Maitland-Niles is better on the right-hand side when he plays. So for me, I just look at it and just feel like we kind of lacked that left-hand side. And I do think Kieran Tierney brings something. And I think when we scored that second goal against Newcastle, I thought Tierney actually was involved in the play with Smith Rowe and Aubameyang. So without Kieran Tierney, do we go out and go and get a left-back? Because we've sent Kolasinac on loan to Schalke until the end of the season. He's enjoying life over there in Germany. Probably doesn't want to come back. Paid $100,000 a week on him, and then literally we're going to have to go out and go and get a left back because does Saka really want to play left back? He can do a good job there, but we might have to go out and go and get a left back in January. If Tierney apparently has to have an MRI scan, he could be out against Newcastle on Monday night. We don't know, and Newcastle fans will look at that thinking that's Arsenal's best player within recent weeks. So, for me, last night against Palace was really frustrating. Crystal Palace like to play defensive away from home. Roy Hodgson's the manager who likes to play more defensive. Palace on their day they beat Manchester United this season. They got a point last night against Arsenal. So, for me, he likes to be so defensive. And Palace played really, really well. In my opinion, I think the game was a fair result, but it's 2 points dropped and we have to start bouncing back. And for me, we were never going to get into the top 4, but there was a little glimpse of hope. And now we need to go into the transfer market. About a couple of weeks until the transfer market closes, and we're all over the place. We need a goalkeeper at first to start because Ronaldson, we don't know what's going to be happening with him. There was talks this week he was going to leave straight away and we were going to get rid of his contract.
Yeah.
And then we were going to literally bring in, we've been linked with 3 goalkeepers, Neto from Barcelona, Tom Heaton, and Matthew Ryan from Brighton. So we've been linked with some of them. We need a creativity midfielder. We can't rely on Smith Rowe to carry us because if he gets injured, we don't have anyone else. Ceballos, I don't think he's not good enough. He can't obviously be consistent enough. So we need to go. We'll be linked with the Norwich midfielder and we'll be linked with the Brighton midfielder, Basuma. Go and get these deals done. Even if we get one of them, just go and get this deal done. Norwich want 40 million for Beneda. I wouldn't pay 40 million, but go and get some midfielders. Even if it's a loan deal, just go and get some midfielders in. They're on about talking about Jack Greenish paying 100 million quid. Jack Greenish is a good player, but he's not £100 million material. They're on about flipping us. We get rid of Mustafi, Xhaka, pay 50 million plus cash swap, and we get Jack Greenish. We're not going to get Jack Greenish in. We're not going to get Jack Greenish in. And do you really think he's going to come to Arsenal? He wants Champions League football. He wants to do.
Think he will.
He won't come to Arsenal. We're a mid-table club. So why would he want to come to Arsenal? It will look ridiculously paying 100 million quid for a player who's got potential to be world class. I wouldn't pay 100 million. I'd pay maybe at least 60, 70 million for him. So yeah.
Yeah, like you're saying about the Arsenal side, that's something I've noticed with Arsenal quite a bit. Your players are starting to age quite a bit, so you're quite an aging side in the Premier League. You've got obviously the youngsters coming through like Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe and all that. But you know, they're still young. They're not established players, so it's going to take them a while to get themselves settled into the side. Obviously, Smith-Rowe's doing quite well with you, but you know, they're still young lads. They're still going to struggle at times during the season, and I think that's something, you know, that you need to be looking at. You need to be looking at buying some more established Premier League players, you know, that are going to actually do the job for you. They're going to push you to where you want to go in the league. And that's a sort of similar situation with Newcastle. You know, we've got quite a lot of players in our side from previous managers, and it's just stacking up and stacking up. There's players in there that have been there for quite a while now, you know, since Chris Hughton was there. And it's absolutely crazy, you know, with having that amount of players in. It's when you switch your manager too much, you know, you end up with players that you don't want in your team. We got a little bit of a change, obviously, when Rafa was here for the 3 years. He managed to at least build a established team, a team with a very good defence. That was something that was quite interesting to watch under Rafa being here. You know, and that's something that we've seen quite a lot from Rafa as well. Every club he's went to, at Liverpool, he was a really good manager there, you know, winning them the Champions League. And he went into Milan. He did well in there as well. But in Newcastle, he was building a project and he got stopped halfway through the project. He didn't even get a chance to finish what he was trying to do. And, you know, that's something I think, you know, we need to be looking at trying, if we do eventually get the takeover, you know, we do need to be getting maybe Rafa Benitez back, because he had a project started. He wants to finish that project. And, you know, I'm all for him coming back as the manager of Newcastle United, because, you know, anything's better than watching Steve Bruce play.
Like we touched on from last week, do you think you will get a takeover? Do you think this takeover is going to happen? Because personally, the way Newcastle are at the moment, I don't think you ain't going to get a takeover, because you still haven't sacked Steve Bruce yet. And do you really think this takeover, people are going to look at it thinking that they still want to. So this is the thing. If you had a takeover tomorrow, for assistance, we all know what's going to happen. But say if you did and Steve Bruce was in charge, would you still sack Steve Bruce?
I would personally, yeah, because he's had 100 million this season already backing from Mike Ashley. And this is what he's doing with 100 million backing. So, you know, if you think about it, the Saudis coming in, they're going to want to spend more than 100 million in the transfer window, definitely, for cert. You know, so if he can't do it with 100 million, what's he going to do with, say, 200 million, 300 million? You know, he's just going to waste it on players that aren't going to move forward. You know, look at some of the players that we've got in Wasai this season. We brought in Jeff Hendrick on a free from Burnley. He's absolutely horrendous. He's probably one of the worst players I've seen play in a black and white shirt, to be honest. It's how he plays on the weekly basis. It's absolutely beyond a joke. And no wonder he was free. No wonder Burnley wanted to get rid of him, because he's absolutely dire as a player.
He's more of a championship player. He ain't good enough in the Premier League.
Yeah, he just doesn't have that ability to play Premier League football. You can see he dwindles on the ball too much. He literally fucks up passes right, left, and centre. Sorry for my language as well. But he literally messes up so many passes in a game every week. And it's starting to leak off onto other players, you know, like Sean Longstaff. He's starting to do it now as well. John Joe Shelby, we've seen doing it as well. You know, so in my eyes, if we were to get the takeover, which I'm 100% certain that it's going to happen, you know, it's just a matter of time. It's inevitable at the end of the day. But in my eyes, when that takeover does happen, Steve Bruce should be nowhere near Newcastle United. He should be gone. We should have an established manager like a Rafa Benitez or Allegri or somebody like that coming in, somebody that is a known winner. They can go out there, can take the team and be challenging for top half finishes, at least Europa League finishing. And that's what the Saudis want. You know, that's what they want to do. They want to come in, they want to take over, they want to make Newcastle United a dominant force in English football, just like the Arabs did with Man City, with Sheikh Mansour. They came in and wanted to turn Man City.
You're a bigger club, and you were a bigger club in the 90s when you had good players like Kevin Keegan and Alan Shearer. And like I touched on this before, literally, I do think Newcastle, with the size of the stadium you have, you need to get rid of Mike Ashley. First things first is to get rid of Steve Bruce, bring a decent manager in, and you need to get, like what you touched on, you need to get a new owner, because I do think Newcastle needs to get rid of the deadwood and you need to start getting back to Europe again. Like, I remember back like 2006, 7, 8, Newcastle were challenging for Europa League spot. That is the club what Newcastle need to be. You need to get rid of that owner. Obviously, we can't do nothing because obviously we're in a pandemic and the fans are not there to protest. And he ain't going nowhere because he's making his money. That's the same as us with Stan Kroenke. The thing is, you're a bigger club. You need to get rid of the deadwood and you need to get these Saudi Arabia. They need to offer big money. But here's the question. Would Mike, even if these Saudi Arabians offered a massive offer, would Mike Ashley have the balls to get rid of himself and Mike Ashley? Would he actually want to sell up if someone offered a massive money?
Definitely in my eyes. You know, with Mike Ashley, we've gotten to know him quite a bit over these years that he's owned the club, and everything about Mike Ashley is money. That is where his literal relationship lies right there. Yeah. He could literally just chuck his family aside for money. That is what Mike Ashley is. It's all about money about that guy. And, you know, that's why I'm quite surprised, to be honest, that Steve Bruce hasn't been sacked already, because it's literally bordering on losing this massive takeover with the Saudis. You know, this kind of takeover, you know yourself, Luca, mate, this kind of takeover doesn't come along every day. This is absolutely outstanding money. The biggest takeover probably in the world of football. You know, 320 billion, man. Come on. You can't turn that down. And you know, that's why I'm quite surprised that Steve Bruce is still in that job at the minute, because he should have been gone ages ago. He's literally threatening the future of the club. And if he's such a big Newcastle United fan as he says he is, you know, he would know that and he would step down and literally move on.
He would.
We're seeing Ruud Gullit, you know, back in the 90s. He knew he couldn't take the club forward. He knew he'd done what he could do for the club, and he knew he'd made a mistake as well along the way. And he stepped down and moved away and let somebody else come in and take over the job. And that's what Steve Bruce needs to do. He needs to step away from the job. He knows he's not good enough, and yet he still continues to try and hold on to this job. I'm absolutely determined as well that he's sabotaging the team so that he can go down into the Championship and remain as the manager. Because if we go to the Championship, I don't think we will get the takeover. Because why would the Saudis want to buy a club that's down in the second tier of English football?
This is the thing. And you've made a really, really good point. And that's something which has just given me an idea. The thing is, right, the way Newcastle are at the moment, at this moment of time being, why would the Saudi Arabians want to come if Mike Ashley's not going to get rid of the club and not going to sell the club up? Why would he do that?
That's what I'm saying. You know, he's got to get rid of Steve Bruce. He's literally sacrificing one of the absolute biggest takeovers in the world. He's literally looking at a gift horse, right, and just saying, no, we're going to stick with Steve Bruce and see how far he can take the club. And we know he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it, because you can see it literally every week when we're playing games. You can literally see him on the sideline, standing like this, standing like this. He's not active. He's not animated. He's not even bothered what's happening on the pitch. And if we go back, of course, to what I was saying earlier, you know, about Sheffield United's game against Wigan, you just had to look at the way he reacted, man, with Chris Wilder after that game. It was absolutely beyond a joke. He literally walked towards Chris Wilder with a big, massive grin on his face. That right there, you know, it doesn't put any confidence in me as a Newcastle United fan, or any other Newcastle United fans, in my opinion. If you're literally walking towards a rival manager, grinning your head off that your team's just lost.
Well, I look at that, and I think that's something. I did see that, and I think it was a bit disrespectful, because obviously that's not going to give your players a bit of confidence, and that's going to really, really put a lot of pressure on the club and Steve Bruce. And the way I look at it, right, I just feel like the players are not going to play for Steve Bruce, and the more this continues and continues, the more pressure Mike Ashley will have to eventually get rid of him. And you have to be forced to get rid of him, because if they're not going to sack this manager, then why does Steve Bruce deserve to? And why does Steve Bruce think he actually deserves to be good enough as a Newcastle manager? Like, you're going down and down and down and down. You're sinking down the table, and you're literally 15th in the league. You are 7 points off the relegation zone, and it's only 17 games, and we're halfway through the season. Newcastle Football Club can still get relegated. And that is really, really frightening. And you've got difficult games coming up. You've got us on Monday. You've got other games coming up as well.
Yeah, we've got Leeds coming up. That's not going to be a great game, obviously. After the way we played in that one, ended up with a 5-2 defeating by Leeds. Not going to be a great game, that. The other games, not great neither. We've got some pretty tough games coming up, and that game against Sheffield United, it should have been a win, should have been 3 points in my eyes. You know, it was an absolute certain game, and he threw it away. Yeah. Let's look at a couple of the comments here. We've got Funko Freddy. He's saying, in 60 games, Steve Bruce played 38 different players. This tells you the lack of body language, tells me he's out of ideas. I don't know what to say on that. Seriously, Freddie, mate. Because, to be honest, I wouldn't give him excuses. Steve Bruce has just literally lost the dressing room. He's lost the way he's even going in games. It's just something absolutely beyond a joke now. It needs to be stopped.
Something's got to be changed. And if it doesn't get changed, we're going to continue being rubbish. Like, the thing with me with Arteta, and I remember you said, obviously, what I thought about Arteta. I still think he's out of his depth. And whether people can't really slag Arteta, but I slagged a little bit of Arteta. If you go and watch my Palace review, it's about 35 minutes long. And I said about Arteta, I just said it's not good enough. And the thing is, I think the job's too big for him. He's out of his depth. He's just not good, man. He's just not good, and we need a manager who's going to come in and get these players out of the club. And he needs to take full control of it. He needs to start taking things forward. He needs to take full control of it, because nothing's not happening. And yes, we're on a little bit of a good form. Yes, we've won 4 wins in all competition, and we've got a draw against Palace. But hopefully that result doesn't obviously affect us, because we've got you lot on Monday night, and that game last week when we beat you in extra time, I don't really want us to see that kind of performance again, because obviously there's no extra time penalties in the Premier League. But Newcastle, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle get something out of this game.
I would love to get something out of the game. Personally, I would take a draw if it was offered to us right now, because, you know, yes, we played absolutely amazing in that game against yourselves in the FA Cup. And we probably should have come away from the win in the game, in my opinion. But with the chances that was wasted by Newcastle when we were given them, the chances wasted by Arsenal as well, you know, both teams don't look great. And mainly it's down to the fact of both managers. You've got Mikel Arteta. He's only new to the management scene.
Yeah.
He's obviously been sitting under Pep Guardiola at Man City for a little while. And looking at Arsenal, I think that's what Mikel Arteta's trying to do. He's trying to make us into a mini Manchester City, and you can see it in the tactics, the way he plays the games. He plays the same sort of tactic as what Pep Guardiola plays at City.
Yeah.
And for me, that isn't the way to go with Arsenal. It's not your style of football. You don't have the players to do it. You obviously don't have a Kevin De Bruyne there, which you've got to have a Kevin De Bruyne if you want to play the style that Pep Guardiola plays, because literally everything in Manchester City, you watch Man City's games, and everything in Man City runs through Kevin De Bruyne. Everything runs through Kevin De Bruyne. He's literally, to quote an American on this, of course, he's literally the quarterback of Man City's team. And I don't think Arsenal's got that quarterback. They've got Ozil. He's pretty good at passing the ball, but he's aging. He's moving on.
He's not Kevin De Bruyne, and this is the thing. This is what Arsenal need. Arsenal, if they want to go and get players like Jack Grealish, then you're going to have to pay the money. And this is the thing. Grealish will be a dream signing, but it's not going to happen, isn't it? Because we know that Kroenke ain't going to invest 100 million, but
exactly.
He's not that stupid to do it. He can do it if he wanted to. He bought Pepe for 72 million, and Pepe hasn't really worked out. But still, I get your point where we don't have that kind of magic midfielder like a De Bruyne or a David Silva type. Ozil was good at it when he was at his best, but we don't seem to have that kind of attacking midfielder, that kind of is going to a game changer who can come off, change the game, get you a winning goal. And that's something where Arsenal do. We've lacked creativity. We haven't had that since Santi Cazorla, Fabregas, Rosicky. We haven't had any of that until those players are gone. We don't have that kind of spark, that creativity, like a Fabregas, Rosicky, Jack Wilshere, Santi Cazorla type. And we need that in the January transfer window. And we have been linked with a few players. We've been linked with Beneda. We've been linked with Isco. We've been linked with Basuma from Brighton. Let's get these players in. Let's get at least a couple of signs in before the window. Even if it's a loan deal, just try it out. And if it doesn't work out, then we go again in the summer. So that is something where I do think the board have got to look into it. If we don't sign anyone in this transfer window, or not even a backup goalkeeper, although January is a very, very weird transfer window, because obviously it's January transfer window is pretty much only for players who we need actually to come in to actually players injured in that, and we need a bit of cover. But if we don't see any improvement, like top four, I think it's over because we're 8 points off the top four. Other teams have got game in hand, but if we can try and get at least a Europa League spot, then it's not good enough. Literally, it's not good enough. If the board are not going to back Mikel Arteta, and if Arteta is not going to take responsibility of it, then the whole lot need to go. The whole lot need to go. And we can't be sticking with these same players, okay? We're a big club at the end. Arsenal and Newcastle are two massive clubs. And they're two massive clubs. And the way we're both performing this season, we don't deserve where we want to be. And literally, the board, Mike Ashley and Stan Kroenke, are both the same scenario people. It's just Kroenke doesn't go to the games. Ashley goes to the games.
Well, most of the games anyway.
Yeah, Kroenke probably don't even know what the result was because we played midweek yesterday. So he won't know what the result is. So
it's crazy. It really is. It's just crazy the way the two clubs are going. And if you look back at Arsenal when yes were the Invincibles, that was a good side. Fair enough, you didn't go undefeated 100%, but you did get an undefeated season. Would you say that with Arsenal these days? I don't even think so. No, not even likely.
I don't think so, because obviously you're not going to expect anything different between us and Newcastle. Nothing will change until our owners start pumping any money, because you really think Stan Kroenke borrowed 120 million out of the bank to cover all the flipping costs?
Exactly.
Do you really think Kroenke's going to, in 5-6 years, he's not even put any of his money into the club? Okay, we've got so many shit players. We've got so many rubbish players at this club. Willian we pay over 100 grand on him. Sits on the bench recently, 3-year contract, right? He wanted to stay at Chelsea, but Chelsea obviously offered him a 2-year deal, but he wanted a 3-year deal. At first, I was excited with William because I thought he would have brought his experience from West London to North London, but he didn't. Yeah. He dropped. Pepe, for me, like, I was so frustrated on Pepe yesterday. Pepe, for me, I think he's shocking. To be honest. And I thought he didn't have a good game against Newcastle, Nicolas Pepe. And Pepe, on his day, he could produce something, okay? But Pepe is a flop. It's about time. Things are not working very well. He's managed under 3 different managers. He was an Unai Emery signing, yeah? And Pepe, for me, he's not going to find his feet quick enough. And I think the Premier League has not really come across him. And if we sell him now, we're probably going to get less value for him because nobody ain't going to pay 72 million for a guy who's obviously didn't have the half bad decent start since he came into the club, but it's not really flopped. This was the season where you expect, is this guy worth the penny? But now Nicolas Pepe has not done nothing. And literally, our recruitment is so bad at this club. Like, we like, you look at Chelsea, for instance. Chelsea have had a transfer ban, right? And they went out and spent 200 million, and they used all those youngsters. Lampard got them into the top 4.
Exactly.
Right? Our recruitment is so bad. We could have got Ziyech for 25 million and Ryan Fraser at the time. Whereas we went out to go and get Nicolas Pepe, and then we go and get Willian on the free agent. Unai Emery wanted Wilfried Zaha. They said it on Sky Sports yesterday. He wanted Zaha, Maguire at the club with Thomas Partey. But we end up getting Torreira, who we don't know what to do with him because literally there's been talks whether we can't decide where he's going to go next season. Guendouzi might be coming back at the club. I don't want Guendouzi at the club because I think his attitude stinks and I think he hesitates on the ball. He had potential, but I don't think this guy ain't good enough to play football for Arsenal. So our recruitment is so bad, and it's not only like, you look at it, is your recruitment so bad at Newcastle? Because people could blame the owner with whether they want, like, you could blame Mike Ashley because Mike Ashley's not doing anything, like the whole Saudi Arabia trying to get flipping Steve Bruce out. Kroenke, we know that the Kroenkes don't obviously care, they don't invest. They bought that club just to obviously make money. Is your recruitment as bad compared to us?
Our recruitment isn't that great. We've signed a couple of players that I would say is quite good. Yeah. Obviously, there's standout ones as well. You've got Callum Wilson, absolutely amazing signing for us. Yeah. He's one of the reasons why we did so good at the beginning. And I think he's lacking players around him that can really help set up the goals for him, get him in them positions. Obviously, we're missing Maxi at the moment because of the whole coronavirus and that. Obviously, we're missing him from the team, which is a big loss. And you can say it's a big loss by the way the performances are going. When Maxi plays, we'll win, and that's something that we're missing in our side in games. Now, obviously, some people might say, well, we're picking on Steve Bruce for losing the games. Maybe he's losing the games because of Maxi. But, even when Maxi was playing, you could still see moments in the games, where Steve Bruce's inept tactics just weren't helping players in the team. And, our captain, Jamal Lascelles, and Maxi both literally criticised Steve Bruce about his tactics, about how he was going into the games. Also at half-time talks with the players in the dressing room, what he was talking about during them half-times. And I think, to be honest, in my eyes, right, Steve Bruce is literally keeping Maxi out of the side because of that. I think he's literally keeping him out the side. I think Maxi's fit now and he can come into the team at any time playing the games. And I think literally Steve Bruce is keeping him out the side. But like you were saying about the recruitment, for me, you know, we've signed some good players like Maxi, Wilson, you know, them are great signings. And then there's the bad signings, you know, like Jeff Hendrick. Yes, we brought him in on a free, but he's still taking money on a wage, you know, that he's not performing for. He's literally getting paid to do nothing at all in the games. At times, he's absolutely messing the games up for, which is quite a lot of the time. And then, of course, you've got the other ones, which is like Joe Linton. You know, we're meant to have paid 40 million for Joe Linton.
Yeah.
If he's Brazilian, you know, I'm the Pope, to be honest, because no way is he Brazilian. When you think Brazilians, you know, you think style, flair, being able to just take a man on for fun. And you just don't see it with Joe Linton. No way in hell is he ever 40 million.
He's worth 40 million quid. And what I can say to that, when he first came in, I thought, you've got a player here that can actually do something. But he ain't worth 40 million quid. Like, what's he done at Newcastle is nothing. He's been completely flopped. He doesn't show consistency. He doesn't perform. He just can't do anything at the end. And I feel the Premier League, that's the same with Nicolas Pepe. Like, we pay all this money, we still have to pay his instalments. We're stuck with this lad until pretty much his contract expires, and nobody ain't going to pay that sort of money for Pepe. I don't think anyone has not even offered Nicolas Pepe. There was one rumour not long ago, a month or so ago, that there was talks about Nicolas Pepe going out on loan. Like,
where would he get loaned to?
If that's true, why would you pay all that money then send a player out on loan? I just don't understand.
Where would you loan him to, though? Who's going to pay his crazy wages that he's getting paid at Arsenal? You know, nobody's going to pay it. Nobody in the Premier League below the self-entitled ones is going to pay that kind of wage, you know?
Yeah.
In my opinion. So where would he go? Who would?
I don't know where he'll go, but obviously, I thought about it the other day before the Palace game. I was thinking Pepe, maybe he'll go back to France because it feels like he's homesick. It feels like Pepe probably wants to go back because it's suitable for him. He might be good in the Serie A league. Those are leagues where you feel like if a player is going to be a flop in the Premier League, you're better off playing over there to try and get experience than maybe come back to the Premier League one day, or you're just not good enough in the Premier League in general. Yeah,
we've seen that with Lukaku, haven't we? Yeah, he was flopping at Man U, and now he's in Milan. He's absolutely killing it. One of my teams as well that I support in Italy, in the Milan, and he's absolutely killing it over there with his performances. You know, we couldn't see him do it at Man United, so it just proves, you know, if you can't do it in England, go to another league, you'll have a better chance. Florent Thauvin at Newcastle, you know, he came in and he was absolutely poor. He was very weak. He was getting shoved off the ball. France, he's an absolute world beater in France. So talking about, obviously, the game coming up on Monday, what's your thoughts, Luca, going into that game on Monday? Well, how would you set up for that game?
Well, it all depends what Arsenal turn up. It all depends what Arsenal turn up, because if it's the Arsenal that played against Newcastle, then I think we'll beat you, but we'll just get away with it. Or if it's the Arsenal that played against Palace last night, I can see this game being a draw. But I think we'll win this game because I feel Newcastle have got more problems than us. I know we're both near enough the same scenario. We've got more problems, but you've got more problems than us at the moment. I know both clubs are in a tile mess, and we're both pretty much similar where we are. But I feel like you've got pretty much more mess because I think you're really not playing for the manager, and I think the players are kind of playing for Arteta now. But I think we'll win this game because obviously we want to react and bounce back from that Palace game. We want to try and get back to winning ways again. And obviously it was 2 points dropped. We dropped yesterday after that 0-0 draw. I think we'll beat you. I think we're going to beat you probably. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but I'm going to go for a different score, not the 3-1, but I think we'll beat you 2-1. I think 2-1. I think we'll beat you. We've got pretty much a good record at the Emirates. You've got a lot of problems. Thomas Partey probably wants to try and see if he could start the game. And that can make a difference to our midfield. And if he starts, I don't see why not. I think we'll beat you 2-1.
Looking at the game against us in the FA Cup, the way we played in that, like I said, we put in a pretty good shift. Obviously, we were pretty lackluster when it came to finishing away, as were yourselves, of course, in the game. But like you say, that game against Crystal Palace, you drew that game. I didn't see too much of it, unfortunately, but I did look back over the highlights and I could see, that Arsenal looked a bit wary in that game. They didn't seem to be up for it as much. So, if Arsenal play with that same mentality against us on Monday, it's a different matter. But if they play with the same mentality as that on Monday, then, maybe we can nab something in this game. I wouldn't say that we're going to absolutely thump Arsenal because, it's not possible with the way tactics are going at the club and with the way Steve Bruce is at the moment. And obviously we don't have Ryan Fraser, even with him being suspended from that game. And you don't have what I thought was probably one of the best players in the game against us in the FA Cup was Kieran Tierney.
He was quite worrying, and also Andy Carroll was really, really, really good. And what the funny thing was about Andy Carroll in that game, and it really got frustrating. I thought to myself, got a bad feeling about it. And I always get too negative when obviously players play really well. Because the funny enough about Andy Carroll was playing as a centre back. And it was so funny, literally, that Andy Carroll was blocking every single shot. And we put a lot of crosses in that game. And then it felt like Andy Carroll was pretty much like a big defender. And then Andy Carroll just literally just kept defending. And I thought, I always see teams how they know how teams play. I know how Arsenal play. They know how Arsenal play at the Emirates. Teams know how Arsenal play at the Emirates. They're going to go there and set up. And you set it up. You wanted to go for the win. And you looked a bit similar to Palace yesterday. You looked a bit more defensive, and you got us on the break, and then we killed you in extra time.
Yeah, I thought Andy Carroll was probably one of our best performers in that game. Yeah. And, I think, to be honest, Steve Bruce is going to maybe go with Andy Carroll again. And I cannot argue with that, because the performance he put in against us in the Cup was absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best performances from Andy Carroll in a long time since he's come back to the club. And I think if we are going to this game against you and pick up a win or pick up some sort of positive result, I think we'll have to go into the game with a more attacking approach to the game, going with a 4-4-2, play two up top. And I would go with, Callum Wilson and Andy Carroll up top in the top pairing against us. The power and pace, I think that would be a big factor in this game against us. I think, Andy Carroll could muscle a few of the players around, get that ball into Wilson, and then hopefully, Wilson will be able to put it into the back of the net and get Newcastle something positive out of this game. And let's face it, us Newcastle United fans really need this positive mentality, because with the way things are going at the moment, it's not very positive in Newcastle. It's very doom and gloom. The only positive in my eyes, at the club is knowing that takeover is there. It's literally on the horizon. And if we can just get that positive answer from arbitration, then Newcastle United's future can completely change. But the game on Monday, I would go Newcastle coming away from it with possibly a draw against us in that game. I cannot really say we're coming away with a win. It would have to be something absolutely massive for us to come away with a win, and I mean absolutely massive. Literally,
the only way I feel like you can get a win, obviously, I know Arsenal drew 0-0 against Palace, but you probably need to have a decent performance like Palace did, try and score a goal.
Yeah, if we went into it with the mentality like Palace did, I think a draw is quite fair, to be honest. I think we could actually get that. But a win, it's been a bit too positive, for Steve Bruce. It's too much. It's asking too much of Steve Bruce from go and get a win. Now, if it was Rafa Benitez, I'd be all over a win against Arsenal with Rafa Benitez because he's got that edge. He's got that mentality to push the team harder, make them go that extra mile. And with Steve Bruce, you just don't see that. He just doesn't have that edge to push the team on. He just backs down at the smallest sign of pressure. And we've seen it quite a bit this season with Steve Bruce. But in my eyes, I would go with Newcastle to come away from this one with a draw. But, I can't see we're picking up a win in this one. To be honest.
So confident. I can't believe you're confident. Is it because you kind of saw the reaction that we drew 0-0 against Palace and you kind of felt like you got robbed in extra time, that we scored 2 goals in extra? Is that why you kind of feel like... But saying that, you lost to Sheffield United, though.
Yeah, but that was with, 9 at the back. Defensive tactics. I cannot see Steve Bruce being as stupid again. But then again, we're all talking about Steve Bruce. But I cannot see him being as stupid to go completely defensive against a team when he knows that in the FA Cup we're actually entered level going into extra time. So there is a chance that we can actually pick up a point in this game and at least make up a little bit for the game against Sheffield United. But it's not going to make up immensely, obviously, because we've lost them 3 points now and we can't get them back. And who knows what's going to happen with that, down the line. We might need them 3 points come the end of the season. And we're just going to have to live with that, Steve Bruce is going to have to live with that, obviously. And most importantly, he's going to have to live with that because at the end of the day, whenever there's a problem with the team, the buck stops at the manager. The manager is always the one to blame for things not going right at the club, for tactics at least. Obviously, you can't do anything about the whole player situation. But like I said earlier on in the video, he's still had 100 million this season. And if he can't do positive stuff at the club with 100 million spent, what's he going to do if the Saudis did decide to keep him in, which in my opinion, they won't. But if they did, what's he going to do with 200 to 300 million? He's going to do exactly the same, isn't he?
But do you think you made a very, very good point there? And there's something I want to touch on that. Yes, I do agree with you. Even if he did have 100 to 200 and 300 million and he's not going to do with it, is that really, really going to make a difference whether he does or does do it? Because that's not really going to change anything.
I don't know really what to say on that one, to be honest. Look at me. I really don't know what to say on that because literally when he first came into the club as a manager, I was very against him being there.
Yeah.
And then I thought, let's be fair, let's at least give him a chance. Let's at least give him a small chance to try and prove himself at the club. Maybe he'd be completely different to what he was at the other clubs. But, I was proven wrong. I was proven wrong that he could be different here. And we've seen it too much now from Steve Bruce. He's a dinosaur of the game. He's from the same mould as the managers like Sam Allardyce, Alan Pardew, Steve McLaren. They just go into jobs, and somehow they find themselves these jobs every single time. And somehow they come away, smelling of absolute roses against all these clubs that they've just stole a living from. You know, look at Steve McLaren. He came into the club and he ended up getting relegated. And here he was off in the Bahamas after getting his compensation off of being sacked. He was off in the Bahamas, swimming around with dolphins with his family. And here's Newcastle United and Rafa Benitez fighting to stay in the Premier League. And here's Steve McLaren out in the Bahamas, sunning it up. And then you've got Sam Allardyce, exactly the same. He gets sacked. He buys Casa de Tun, as he called it, off of Newcastle. And it's absolutely beyond a joke. This sort of stuff has got to stop in football. These kind of people just can't keep getting jobs. They've got to finally be stopped because they're literally coming in, they're destroying people's clubs, they're destroying fans, they're killing fans as well. You know, the Newcastle United fan, you know, at Christmas, he went and passed away, you know, off of committing suicide because of what has been going on with the team. You know, the Premier League with this whole takeover as well has literally caused so much depression to so many different people. And, you know, we don't need this crap. People don't need this crap as football fans. You know, people don't need this crap as just normal people in life. We're going through so much as it is with this whole pandemic at this moment in time. You know, people are not getting to see their loved ones. Some people are literally losing so much money because they have businesses and they can't do their business because they've had to close their business. And then you've got the Premier League piling even more pressure on top of that, you know, for their clubs by not allowing certain things to happen, like the takeover at Newcastle, you know, and that's causing so many problems with different people. Like I say, you know, people committing suicide off of it because they're so depressed at what's going on. And, you know, I don't know if it happens with your fan base, but obviously it probably will. We just don't know about it. But, you know, a while back, I was in a taxi coming back from the town. And the taxi driver was literally talking about this lad that he used to pick up in his taxi. And literally, the lad is a diehard Newcastle United fan, right? And he literally would go to the games every single week, home, away, doesn't matter where it was, he was always there. And if Newcastle United lost, he would be at a bridge trying to jump off and kill himself because Newcastle lost the match. And, you know, that is how much Newcastle United means to us fans. You know, there's not much going on in the northeast of England. You know, Newcastle, it just runs on football, and that's why our fan base, in my eyes, you know, is one of the best fan bases in the world. Will literally follow our team through thick and shit to the end of the earth. And the Premier League have got to know this, you know. If this gets watched by the Premier League, you know, I'm going to say a message now. And Richard Masters and Gary Hoffman need to know who they're messing with. They are literally on the verge of a pretty bad run. Who was that?
Richard
Masters and Gary Hoffman.
Yeah.
Them two both need to literally watch themselves because they're messing with the wrong fan base. The way they are dealing with this whole takeover situation, it's beyond a joke. It really is. It's beyond a joke. It should have been dealt with in a much more professional manner. We've heard news, you know, over the last couple of days that the government were getting involved in the takeover. There was talks between the Premier League and the government over a takeover of a football club. That shows you, you know, how much this takeover is worth. You know, so it just makes you wonder. You know, you cannot help but wonder what is going through the minds of these people when they're literally interfering and causing so much problems for people. But I just don't know what to say on it. Literally, it's so frustrating. It's how long it's been going on now. But the game against Arsenal, your thoughts on that, Luca, mate? What's your score prediction, of course? And
I'm going to go for Arsenal winning by 2-1. I feel we'll bounce back from this 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace. I feel like this is a massive win. We've got Thomas Partey back. Martinelli could be fit for Monday. Apparently, there's talks about that. Tierney, I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I pray that he's fit because we're dying. We need Kieran Tierney back with luck on that left-hand side. And I think we'll beat you. Like I said before, I think you've got enough problems at the moment. We've both got problems at this club. And Arsenal and Newcastle are pretty much on the same, similar. But I think we're at home. I think we'll bounce back. And I know this is another thing which kind of annoys me with Arsenal. But I do think we will win this game. And Robbie touched it on yesterday. I don't know if you know Lee Judges from AFTV, the bald guy.
Yeah.
He looks like Voldemort, but anyway. But as I was saying, Robbie was saying to Lee Judges, like, is it the lack of fans that we've lost a lot of home games this season? Whereas I don't know if your club have lost quite a lot of home games, or whether you do better away or home or not.
We've seemed to do a lot better at home than we have done it away this season, which, to be honest, is kind of fitting because that's usually the way it is with Newcastle. We usually do really well at home, but not so well away. But under Rafa, it was, we were good and home and away with Rafa. But under Steve Bruce, obviously, it's the home over the away victories.
Because I feel with us, there's no supporters in the home games, and I feel like obviously that's where I kind of feel like I always get nervous, even if it's a team where I expect to win. Like, am I nervous against Newcastle Monday night? I am a bit, but I think we will win this game because I feel we've got the record. We've got a good record, and you haven't beaten us since 2010, since Carroll scored that winner. And then how long will it continue? We might break the record on Monday, but I just feel like obviously when the crowd's not there during this pandemic, and I hope one day that the crowd will come back to full capacity, and get back to normality as it was before. But I just feel obviously it kind of affects me as an Arsenal fan. Like, there's no supporters in the home ground, and this is where I kind of always worried every single home game. And we seem to do better away from home this season. Okay, we might not win every single, but our last 2 away games, we've won back-to-back away games. Brighton and West Brom, and that's the first time we've won back-to-back away games this season. So it really, really kind of affects the crowds. And I know this season has been a really strange season that obviously we dropped 2 points last night, could have gone 7 points behind second place Liverpool, but we're not. We're 12 points off the top, which is really, really that bad. We're 8 points off the top 4. So we have to rely on teams this weekend. Like, literally, we need Leicester to draw to Southampton. I can't see Chelsea losing to Fulham. The Villa's game's been called off. So maybe that kind of helped us a little bit with that, because they've got 2 games in hand against Tottenham and Everton. So Tottenham have got a game in hand. So it's all a lot to play and catch up this season. So the crowd really affects at home. It really affects for us.
So 1892 Max here saying 2-0 Arsenal. We've got Funko Freddy who's saying Andy Carroll kept the ball moving, where Joe Linton holds up the ball. When he stays up, then passes the ball back. Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
Wilson and Carroll. So 1892 Mags agreeing with me, but that we should play Wilson and Carroll up top. Fully agree with that. 4 at the back as well. Good stuff. So my thoughts, obviously, I think we could sneak a draw out of this game, look at me against you. And, I think that's probably all we're going to be able to pick up, I think, as well, because I can't say we're picking up a win. We just don't have the mentality there to pick up that win. We don't have the team neither, obviously. Arsenal's got a few players that are better than ours at the moment. And obviously, Aubameyang, he'll obviously be a big threat going into the game, in my opinion. But I'd like to thank you for coming on the channel, Luca, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on yet again.
For another preview and all that stuff. And hopefully Arsenal can beat Newcastle again. That would be really good. And thanks for letting me come in on.
Yep, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. Like I said last time, the link to Luca's channel is down in the description below. Please go subscribe to it.
Get to 500 subscribers and get me to 600 subscribers by the end of March. It can be done. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share it to both channels. Get your mates to like them. Like the channel. It's for free. No dislikes. Like the video and subscribe.
Good stuff. Exactly like Luca said. Go subscribe. Go like the video. Put a comment as well down in the comments below. Let's get a good discussion going on the game. And Ice Willow here just wants to say a shout out, Luca.
Yep, subscribe to the channel, Ice Wallow, mate. You know where the link is. Subscribe to the channel. It'll be really good. And I'll get back as well.
And Mike Green as well, just quickly saying 4-1 Arsenal.
I'm not sure about 4 goals, but you never know.
Not sure about that myself, to be honest. But yeah, with Steve Bruce's tactics, you never know. Smash the like button as well, guys. Yep, smash the like button as well. And I think that's going to be it for this week with the preview. See us all for the match review, probably after the match or the very next day. Make sure to go check out Luca's channel as well, as I'm sure he's going to be doing a preview over on his channel for this game. And I'll see you all next time. And how are the lads?
How are the lads?